the rise of quantum computing on the horizon, society faces a threat that will break public key cryptography as we know it. In this next session, Futurex's Chief Solutions Architect David Close will explain why enterprise-level code signing is the best way to ensure your organization's cryptographic infrastructure remains secure. David, come take it away. A post-quantum future, enterprise code signing.
Welcome to Green, Texas, home of Green Dance Hall, the oldest continually running dance hall in Texas. Just like Futurex, country music's roots are ground deep in the heart of Texas, and most of the iconic artists you know and love have passed through these doors. Still in operation today, Green Hall is a must-stop when visiting the Texas Hill Country. Hi, I'm David Close, the Chief Solutions Architect here at Futurex. Today, we'll be introducing new concepts and technology that will allow you to update and modernize your HSM and key management infrastructure. As we go through this journey with you, I hope you learn a lot about security and a little bit about Texas. Let's go. Hi, and welcome back to our 2021 Summit. Today we have a very exciting topic to discover, quantum technology and post-quantum safe cryptography. With the coming of quantum computers, cryptographers have been hard at work making sure our critical infrastructure is staying up to date and being protected against attacks against our current cryptographic algorithms used in the industry. I'm here today with Jeff Stapleton. Jeff Stapleton is a security professional with over 30 years of experience, primarily in the financial services industry, focusing on cryptography, PKI, and key management. He has participated in the development of over a dozen ISO and X9 standards and has authored dozens of articles and papers, including his 4 series, Security Without Obscurity, which the PKI book is one of my favorite. He is currently the ANSI X9 F4 chair and is helping large enterprises with their post-quantum safe cryptographic strategy. Hi, Jeff. It's good to have you with us.
Appreciate being here. That was quite an intro. I'm not quite sure I can live up to that, but we'll see what we can do.
Well, I think you've had a extraordinary career and have helped a lot of people with a lot of very challenging problems. So we're honored that you were able to make it today.
Pleasure being here.
Perfect. So I thought with our topic today, quantum computers and post-quantum safe cryptography, we could just start off with a general question. So the buzzword over the past few years in the security space has been quantum computing. Maybe you can help me with just start by defining the technology.
Sure. There's a lot of talk now about we're into the second quantum technology revolution, and there's some pretty good papers out there that talk about it. And one of the revolutions is the concept of a quantum computer. So instead of a classical computer running normal bits that have the values of zeros and ones, the quantum computers have qubits, which can actually take on multiple values. So with a single qubit, I can represent 00, 01, 10, 11 kind of thing. And what that does is, as I can add more qubits, I get exponential growth and exponential processing. The issue we have today, though, is the quantum computers. They are very real. They do exist. But they're nascent, they're small, they're relatively unreliable, and we have a lot of errors. So they're not very useful yet, but we're told it's an engineering problem. So it's sometime in the future, whether that's 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, the quantum computers are going to be very real, and they're really good at solving nonlinear equations, which means problems that are not feasible on a classical computer. I mean, we know how to do these things today from a mathematical perspective, but on a classical computer, solving these kind of problems would take years, hundreds of years, thousands of years. Where on a quantum computer, we could do these maybe in several minutes. And so that's the exciting part, is the quantum computers are going to be able to solve some things for us that we can't do today. The problem is there's a flip side to that coin, is I can also run cryptanalysis on a quantum computer to break some of the modern cryptographic algorithms, like particularly in the asymmetric world, specifically RSA, Diffie-Hellman, elliptic curve. These are now going to be vulnerable, and we're going to have to replace them. So that's why NIST has initiated what they're calling the post-quantum cryptography, PQC asymmetric algorithm. One of the points that is a lot of confusion is these algorithms will run on a classical computer, but will be resistant to the quantum cryptanalysis run on a quantum computer.
Yeah, they don't actually require post-quantum or quantum computers to actually start looking at practical applications.
Correct. I'm going to be able to run the post-quantum cryptography algorithms on my classical computers that will then be resistance against the cryptanalysis run on the quantum computer.
Yep. And you mentioned that we have quantum computers today, very low scale. How long, in your opinion, is it before we really need to start looking at replacing some of the algorithms and just practical applications we use these algorithms in today?
Yeah, that's the big question, is when are the quantum computers going to become realistic? And again, nobody really knows. It's an engineering problem. They're doing a lot of research. Almost every major company and even some of the nation states are doing quantum computer research. So when is it going to be? We don't exactly know. The problem we have is if you can gather information, record it today that are protected using these asymmetric algorithms that are going to become vulnerable, then at some time in the future, when the quantum computer becomes real, these are going to be under attack. So anything I record, maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, next month, next year, they could become vulnerable in some number of years. So some people refer to this as the Moscow equation. So what you have to figure out is, how soon do I need to convert to these new algorithms? Well, the answer is the sooner the better. The problem is we don't know what they are yet. NIST is doing their program. They've gone through 3 rounds. They're currently in round 3. And they've got it down to, there are round 3 finalist algorithms. There are, and I'm glancing at my notes here, sorry about that. There are 4 what they call public key encryption and key establishment algorithms. There are 3 digital signatures, but there's another 8 set of algorithms that are considered to be the alternates. So until the standards get published, the new FIPS, they're not going to be available in the NIST cryptographic algorithm validation program. And then once that's done, they eventually will be available in the NIST cryptographic module validation. And then you're going to have your vendors, such as yourselves, can implement those and offer them in the services and products. And then organizations can then implement those solutions. So the problem is we need to start working on it now, preparing now, even though we don't know what the actual algorithms are going to be in their final state.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And you mentioned data that's being protected today being vulnerable in the future. We've also seen a lot of device manufacturers that are long life devices, think satellites and major infrastructure that have a lifespan of 50 years. Those organizations we've seen have a particular interest in deploying something that's going to be post-quantum resistant, because it's hard to change algorithms once you have a satellite orbiting the Earth.
Right. It's going to take maybe software upgrades, maybe some firmware upgrades. In some cases, we're going to need some hardware upgrades. So it's a major problem. We wrote a paper several years ago called Cryptographic Transitions, and we talked about how these things have to be looked at from the evolution perspective, where computers get faster and the algorithms have to be updated, or there could be a mathematical breakthrough, or there could be a technical breakthrough, like a quantum computer. Yeah. So we're always going to have to be forward-thinking.
Exactly. And the industry has developed this term, crypto agility. And I think a big reason for it is trying to prepare for a major cipher change for applications that weren't designed for cipher changes.
Yeah, part of the problem we have is we've talked about crypto agility for years. We're not very good at it. We had to convert from single DES to triple DES, and then from triple DES to AES, and along the way we had to go from SHA-1 to SHA-2. And, we've got some experience in that space as an industry, but we're not really good at it.
Yeah. I think with the amount of changes, though, we're getting better.
Well, the exciting thing is there's a lot of activity going on in the standards communities moving forward on this, not only in just quantum technology in general, quantum computers, but also what we're calling quantum security, which is going to cover not only the post-quantum algorithms, but some of the newer technologies like quantum key distribution. QKD has been around for over a decade, and it's been available in products for quite some time, but it's always had a distance problem. And they're working on that. It's getting better, and so maybe that might be part of the solution, but we still have a long way to go on a lot of these technologies.
So maybe we can dig into existing applications and existing protocols a little bit more, algorithms. There's a lot of confusion over which algorithms are actually susceptible to post-quantum attacks. And I know there's been a lot of papers against specific algorithms. Are all the cryptographic algorithms that we use today broken with the coming of post-quantum computers? Or is it a certain segment of algorithms that are used?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a lot of confusion in that space. So if you look at the NIST program, they are looking to replace the asymmetric algorithms. So that's your RSA, your Diffie-Hellman, and your elliptic curve. Currently, they believe that the symmetric space, your AES, for example, they're still quantum safe. Could that change in the future? Well, of course it can. I mean, everything is always changing. So right now we're looking at replacing the asymmetric algorithms, and where those are used, particularly in the protocols that you mentioned. So for example, in TLS, we use RSA and Diffie-Hellman and Diffie-Hellman elliptic curve to do the key management up front to establish those session keys. So the session keys themselves are probably going to be okay. The problem is if they're recording the complete negotiation today, they record the entire TLS session. If they can crack open those asymmetric keys sometime in the near future, 3, 5, 10 years from now, whatever that might be, then they can replay the session, they can get to the session keys, and it doesn't matter how good the session keys are, they're going to be able to decrypt the data.
Yeah, it's amazing on how reliant we are on asymmetric technology. Even with symmetric algorithms, we still rely on asymmetric techniques for key distribution.
Well, we do in a lot of spaces. However, we are still doing some of the old school stuff, hasn't completely gone away, where in the symmetric world we're doing key components and we're doing secret shares, and we still have places where we use paper-based key components and we make phone calls and we send couriers and things like that. Those things are not going to be effective. In fact, we may have to rely on them a little bit more until this new stuff gets rolled out.
Yeah. We've been spoiled with some of the asymmetric algorithm abilities.
Oh,
yeah. So we mentioned key distribution. Are there any other practical applications that you've been focusing on for post-quantum safe cryptographic security and algorithms?
Well, we've got a couple new work items established in the X9 arena on standards. We're updating the cryptographic message syntax, for example, to allow for the inclusion of the post-quantum cryptography algorithms. We've launched and normally the security protocols like your TLS, IPsec, those are done out of the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. However, we rely heavily on them in the financial services arena. So we are actually looking at doing what we're calling a quantum or quantum safe TLS implementation. And we're looking at a couple things. We're looking at the ITUT update, where they actually now offer certificates that can have two sets of keys. Normally you have the subject key, which is the public key of the entity, and then you have the digital signature on the certificate itself. Well, they're looking at extensions now where I can have a second public key and a second signature. And the question is, well, can we do that within these protocols? Because they're going to have to be looked at and updated. So we're looking at TLS. We will be looking at IPsec. And there's going to be many others like SSH and some other protocols that are going to have to be reconsidered.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think being a manufacturer of HSMs and key management equipment, we've been focused on practical applications for how this technology can be used today. And a lot of the technology you mentioned is consistent with our own strategy. Code signing is also one that we've seen a large interest in, especially for those devices that are long life devices. Protecting the code that they receive from an integrity standpoint is something we've had a lot of interest in.
Yeah, there's a lot of algorithms out there, like the hashing algorithms we don't believe will be unaffected, but the digital signature algorithms, which rely on the asymmetric keys, will be affected, so they're all going to have to be replaced. But we can probably stay with the original hashing algorithms, and your code signing is usually digital signature based, so that's all going to be affected.
So in terms of the standards bodies out there that are going to be affected by post-quantum safe algorithms, how are they organizing their response?
Actually, normally the standards kind of operate in silos. You've got ISO, which is the International Standards Organization. They have hundreds of technical committees. I tend to focus on TC68, which is financial services. And then the U.S. TAG Technical Advisory Group to that would be the ASC X9, which is accredited by ANSI to write standards in the financial services industry. But I also dabble a little bit at the ISO level, at the ANSI level. Certainly we look at NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, because we rely on them as an authoritative source for the algorithms. We also work with the payment card industry, PCI, and in fact, both NIST and PCI are actual members of X9. So we interact with them a lot. But as I mentioned, there's the ITUT, which is the X509 certificates. There's the IATF, which does a lot of the protocols, your TLS, your IPsec. And then you've even got IEEE, which does some space algorithm stuff in the algorithm space. And you've got, there's dozens and dozens of others. It's a huge glossary out there of who the organizations might be. Now, again, I tend to focus on the financial services industry, but I have to work with a lot of the other groups just to see where they're at in their standards. So to your question, the exciting thing is there's actually been several webinars of joint efforts where we've had representation from IEEE, ITU, ISO, ANSI, and NIST that are looking at these things. And we're actually talking about, okay, folks, normally we work in silos, but you know what? We need to cooperate. And we need to have new standards, international standards, domestic standards, national body standards on not only the quantum technology, but the quantum computers and the quantum security.
Yeah, I know a lot of these bodies sometimes take several years to react to change and to address new standards. Has the post-quantum cryptographic focus changed that at all, or do you guys feel rushed to get some of these standards published to react to industry pressure, or do you think we still have a good amount of time to really hash out these different standards?
Well, and that's a great question. Given the time lags, how long it takes to write the standard, how long it takes to adopt the standard, how long it takes for vendors to implement the standard, and then how long it takes to deploy and implement those solutions, you're looking at many, many years. And like I said, we've got experience in the industry of converting from just single DES to triple DES to AES, and frankly, we're not done, and it takes a long time. Normally, people will say doing a algorithm change at the industry level could take anywhere from 15 to 20 years. If your quantum computers are going to be coming online in the same time frame, 15 to 20 years, we need to be looking at making changes now. And in order to make those changes, we need our standards now. So yeah, we need to start working on them, and we already started in several places.
So earlier you mentioned the NIST program for reviewing different algorithms that could be used in a post-quantum technology world. Could you talk a little bit more through that? Where are we with that that program? What stage are we on, and how's that progressed over the years?
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. So NIST does what NIST does very well. They did a call to the industry for new algorithms, and my understanding, because I haven't been present in all of the round sessions and the work group sessions, my understanding is there were something over 80 submissions. Of those, they went through the paperwork because they had to have the appropriate materials and the algorithms well defined and described and the mathematics fully worked out, so on. They got down to 69 candidates in the round one. They went through a round two, which I believe got it down to 26 candidates. And as I mentioned earlier, they've now completed round three. And so there are 7 candidates as finalists, and there's another 8 as alternates. Now, that's usually a very high number of algorithms. So we may see more consolidation. We're going to see some more tweaking. But NIST still has to write the FIPS on these. They have to actually publish the standards. We're hearing that they're on track. We're hearing that they're still looking at maybe a 2022, 23, possibly 2024 publication. So you as a vendor, for example, how fast can you do the implementation when the standards themselves are still in flux because they haven't published? And so how much can you implement when they're going to do some final tweaking of the algorithms and make some adjustments in the parameters? So it's a tricky area.
It is, and I think vendors out there have realized, I mean, Futurex, one of those, that while the standards aren't published, and our favorite thing to deploy is something that is fully hashed out and fully published, I don't think we have that luxury as a vendor, and so we've taken a lot of resources in terms of making sure we're on the cutting edge there as well. In the NIST program, one thing that we have, prior to the NIST program and with our current asymmetric algorithms, I think we've been spoiled with RSA because it's so versatile in what it can do from an encryption standpoint, a signing validation standpoint, and it looks like NIST has focused on a set of or a wide array of algorithms for different purposes instead of having one for a specific purpose. Is there one that can be used for in the same capacity RSA can be used, or is it more, we're just going to have to accept that there's going to be different types of algorithms used for different use cases?
Yeah, there's, based on what I'm seeing on the round 3 list, there is a clear delineation between doing key management, which they're calling public key encryption, and key establishment. And so they have 4 algorithms for that in the finalist, and then there's 3 for the digital signature, and they're not the same algorithms. Mathematically, they're probably related a little bit, but at the end of the day, yeah, you're going to have a schism between the two. So the old days of having one algorithm for everything, I think, are pretty much going to be gone.
Yeah, and an industry that already had a pretty high barrier of entry for technical expertise, I think, is only going to get higher. Yeah,
exactly.
So you mentioned financial services earlier, and maybe we can focus on that. But what are different industries, including financial services? What are they doing to get ready for the coming of post-quantum cryptography?
Well, I can talk more about what's going on with the X9 community because that's the area that I tend to focus. So actually, back in 2019, so 2 years ago, we did a white paper that's called Quantum Computing Risks. We like to call it the QCR. And it's freely available. You can go out to the X9 site, www.x9.org. You can download the white paper. And in fact, we are in the middle of updating the paper right now. What I was asked to mention is the group that's working on this, the Quantum Computing Risk Study Group. Normally you have to be an X9 member, but it's going to be open to anybody. So if anyone wants to participate in the next round of the white paper that we're working on, they can go out to the X9 site and they can register.
Okay, that's good knowledge. I know a lot of different organizations that they may not typically be providing input into the X9 standards that would be very interested in that. So that's good information.
Yeah, we're looking for industry experts in this area, or even participants who just want to learn more, because a lot of times the person who is involved is new to the group. They ask some very interesting and very difficult questions to answer. So it's wide open. It's really a great group.
With IETF, one of the practical use cases that we spoke about earlier was dual signature certificates. Is that something that organizations can start preparing for now? Is that something that the standards have taken into account? Generic, maybe algorithms that aren't published, and having a secondary algorithm defined in the X509 certificates?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because the dual key or the dual algorithm certificates that I was mentioning earlier actually came out through the ITU in their ITUT standards group.
Okay.
So we've looked at that, the X509. When it first came out, we thought, wow, this is really interesting. We need to take a closer look at that. And we're working on a project for a new standard with an X9. But I heard an interesting rumor, and I haven't ran this down yet, is that the concept of modifying these certificates might actually be patented. And if that's the case, the rumor I'm hearing is that the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force, they will not really discuss or allow or participate with anything that's in a patent space. So the IETF may not be going down the path of the dual key certificates. So we're trying to check into that, finding out what's going on with them. They do have a group called, well, actually they have several groups that they've launched. And again, I'm not a huge participant in the IETF, so I need to dig into this really more. Excuse me. They have an initiative called the Quantum Relief with TLS and Kerberos. There's another one called the Hybrid Post-Quantum Key Encapsulation Methods for Transport Layer Security. But they're looking at TLS 1.2. And of course, we're all looking at the industry forward to going to TLS 1.3. They have another group called the Alternative Approach for Mixing Pre-Shared Keys in IKE v2, which is part of the IPsec space. And they have a couple other groups. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all these groups interact and play together. And I think we're going to have to.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of organizations are focused on, we have the technology we have the protocols that we have the data structures that we have for transmitting data. Is there any way to utilize what we have today without making changes today, but still utilize these new cryptographic algorithms?
Well, hopefully, to your point of the crypto agility, that we can flip the algorithms under the covers so it'll be transparent, so that the applications and the end users and the browsers and so on, they won't see this. This will be invisible to them, we hope.
Yeah.
I mean, if you use TLS today, unless you're tech savvy and are interested and want to look at the certificates, when you set up a TLS session, you don't really know if the underlying certificates are using the RSA algorithm or the Diffie-Hellman algorithm or elliptic curve. And frankly, most users, you just don't care. You just want to click on the button. You want it to work.
Yeah, and it's our job to make sure we maintain that interoperability.
Exactly.
From a user standpoint. This has been a great discussion, Jeff. We've reviewed a lot of different technology that's driving change, the algorithms that are being developed, and how standard bodies are reacting. Are you aware of any technologies that we use today, and kind of going back to our point earlier, but technologies we can start using today that can start deploying post-quantum safe algorithms?
Well, you could do some testing with the newer suite of algorithms, the BQC algorithms as we like to call them. The problem is they haven't been finalized. So whatever you're testing today, you can measure size, strength, you can measure performance, but at the end of the day, they're going to change a little bit. So you really don't want to do a full-bore implementation unless you can do your crypto agility and implement sort of the pre-published version with the knowledge that you're going to have to switch over. But the biggest issue we have with these protocols, if you really think about it, is, as an old friend of mine used to say, you need a pitcher and a catcher. So if you and I are going to connect, we both have to be using the same thing on the same side. So if I'm using a slight variant of an algorithm, it's not going to work with your slight different variant. They have to be exactly the same. So that gets tricky.
Yeah, and I agree. I think organizations that have set up a environment that supports crypto agility, particularly for the use cases that matter the most, is good, because those organizations are going to be able to react fastest. And organizations that are having to redeploy infrastructure and industries that are having to redeploy infrastructure, they're the ones that are going to take the longest to get into play. So.
Yeah, we really need standards at the international level, I think. So you've got things happening within ISO. Again, for me, it'd be within TC68. You've also got JTC1, which is the information technology space. And we have corresponding mirror groups over here in the US. So you have X9 as the tag to TC68, so we can monitor them that way. You have Insights, which is the US tag, into JTC1. But you have to think about the fact that when you look at the ISO membership, there's like something 160 some odd countries that are members. And so on a worldwide basis, we're all going to have to cooperate to go to this new quantum space.
Well, Jeff, I appreciate your time today. I think this session's been very informative for me. I know it's informative to our customers and our users and partners. If there's any more information on the ANSI X9F4 space, where can they go to get more info there?
You pretty much can go to the website www.x9.org. Or if you want, you could reach out to me. I'm the work group chair. I've been chairing that group for, 20-something years now. I'm not sure how that happened. And also, to help me prep for this conversation with you, I did do a lot of research. I've got a list. I actually prepared some slides that have the various standards groups. I'm happy to share with you, and if you want to share that with your audience, so be it. We can do that.
Perfect. Yeah, and we'll make that available as part of this this summit presentation. So
Perfect.
I do appreciate that. So, perfect. Well, Jeff, thank you for the discussion, and we'll keep getting ready for what we see coming.
Okay. Thank you so much.